Just another husband getting seriously cucked by my wife. So this is a warning to any couples who want to fulfill Zool fantasies with adding another person in the bedroom. I am M31, she is F33, and we have a 7 and 4-year-old. Long story short, my soon-to-be ex-wife and I have had multiple MFM over the past 5 years. It was something we both wanted and enjoyed. We had a strong relationship and adding someone didn't seem risky. Fast forward to the summer of 2019. We moved to my state I grew up in. Wife gets a job at a gym. Perfect spot to find a new guy to join us, right? Yeah. Well, that bit me in the ass hard. Apparently she found Mr. Perfect and started her affair. Meanwhile, I was under the impression that she was just catching this guy up to speed about our Zool stuff. Turns out though they were having emotional connections and of course physical. I would ask her multiple times when are we all going to hang out, and there was always some excuse. So this is the start of the suspicion. She started locking her phone and doing all the typical things that are associated with someone having an affair. One day I was able to look in her phone and that showed me the proof that I have lost my wife's love. I brought it up to her. She got defensive and started listing all the things I have done wrong in our 10-year relationship, married for 4 years. She also uses that list as an excuse to say she is not cheating on me, because she is finally happy. Her new man apparently has shown her more love and affection in 6 months than I have in 10 years. I try to tell her about all the good times we had, but she believes I never loved her. I seriously am thinking she is having a mental breakdown, because a lot of it makes no sense. She used to make me feel like a king, and I thought I treated her as a queen, but apparently not. So of course divorce comes into play, but it's complicated because she makes no money. She was fired from the gym job last year, and then got sucked into a pyramid scheme, which actually has been hurting me more than the affair. She has financially ruined our savings, and has become a fool with the Kool-Aid she drinks. She used to tell people she was going to make $40K a month. 9 months later of making zero, she has resorted to DoorDash, and makes maybe $100 a week. Because of the affair and the failed pyramid scheme, I was starting to get so angry with her that we started having verbal fights for the first time in our relationship. It was getting so bad to the point where I had to move in with my parents who live close to my house to save my children from the trauma. Yes, I know this is considered abandonment, but I am not going to ruin my children's mental health. So now I've been living with my parents for several months. Things are up and down with the soon-to-be ex. And last night was the first night her and her man are ducking in my bed in my house where I pay for everything. The children also met him too the other day. My 4-year-old son came up to me when I picked him up and told me about Mr. Perfect was talking to mama. I am so cucked and ducked. My wife is draining every last ounce of humility and pride I have. My bed is now tainted, and I see no hope in sight of my wife ever making enough money to move out. I make just enough money to live paycheck to paycheck with no debt. I can't afford my house and wherever she wants to live. So here I am beating off at my parents' house while my wife gets a free pass in life to duck another man in my house. No girl is going to want to date me with all my baggage. I have one friend and I feel so alone. I am glad I am escaping my wife's delusional mind, but goddamn, she is ducking me hard. By the way, my wife has nowhere to go. Her parents are dead and has no family or friends in my home state. So kicking her out of the house is not easy. Wonder how long I'll have to wait for my MRS Perfect. Duck my life. You need to get your ass back in that house. Assert your dominance. Tell your cheating wife that she needs to do her whoring around outside the marital home. Gather all the evidence that you can about her affair. Start the divorce process. File for custody of the children, as you are the primary breadwinner. And see if your state acknowledges alienation of affection. Dude might be paying you to duck your wife. Good luck, bro. He and her brought other people into the bedroom. I doubt a judge would see this as an affair. Just my opinion. What you do is go back to your home. Tell her she has to get a real full-time job and prepare to move out. As you are the financially stable parent, you may be awarded primary custody of the children. Because you haven't been married for more than 10 years, you might get away without having to pay alimony. Go see the best family and divorce lawyer you can and see what divorce will look like for you. Second story. My M34 pregnant wife's F26 male friend M27 threatened me and told me he loves her. Well, this is a long one. Thank you to anyone reading the whole thing because I need some ducking help. I have to start off with some background. My wife and I met when we were both on vacation. She is Canadian and I am American. We both kept a long-distance relationship going for a couple of months till we met again in Houston, Texas. I went to see her there when she was visiting someone. I knew she was the woman I wanted to marry. She knew the same about me. I cannot explain how drop-dead gorgeous, sweet, generous, caring and big-hearted this woman is. I cannot believe she is mine sometimes. Now, having said all this, I trust her 100%. She's never given me a reason not to. Her and I ended up eloping a year ago after living together for a bit while she was on student visa in the States. She is living in Colorado with me now. She has a great job. I am in law enforcement. We have a beautiful dog and a baby on the way. She's 29 weeks pregnant and looking amazing. Life is great. She has always told me she has a friend that she met off Tinder years ago in Canada. She realized she wasn't attracted to him the way she thought she would be when they met up, so they maintained a platonic relationship because he's a nice guy and they enjoyed each other's company. She has tried setting him up with some of her friends. He's dated some of them. Overall, seems like a fine friendship to me. She always really wanted me to meet him and him to become a friend of ours since she thinks we have a lot in common. No issues here yet for me. He's in the Canadian military. I have to admit he's an attractive, fit guy. I am as well, so that doesn't bother me, but just painting the picture here. A couple days ago she said that he messaged her that he's visiting Colorado with some friends. She excitedly asked me if it's cool for him to have dinner at our house one evening with us since she hasn't met him in a couple years. I had no issues and agreed. He came over one evening and ducked. This man is in love with my wife. Him and I bonded for most of the evening. He enjoyed dinner and overall it was a great evening till the end. He was extremely sweet to my wife, but I was trying my hardest to not let my jealousy get the best of me. Whenever he flirted, my wife playfully knocked it down and I'd say something like, "Hey, too far," and he'd stop and laugh about it and say sorry. He felt the baby kick once, which is weird, but whatever. She went to the washroom. And that's when shit went down. He basically told me that I have an amazing woman. That he wishes sometimes that she's his. He loves her and basically said to take care of her or else. Who the duck are you to come into my house and say that to me? He doesn't know me or anything about me, and he was extremely serious when saying all this. That pissed me off, but I didn't take my rage out and just quietly told him to stop talking right now. Things got awkward between him and I because I really just wanted to punch this man in the face, but I was keeping calm to not stress out my wife. I told him, "How ducking dare you come into my house, a ducking say that to me?" Anyways, we kept our cool. And she came out of the washroom. She could feel the tension because he got up to leave after finishing his plate. Thanked her for dinner. Hugged her and told her if she ever needs anything to never hesitate contacting him, and he glared at me. She was confused and kept asking both of us what was wrong and what happened, why he was leaving so quickly. He said he had to go and nothing's wrong. I just couldn't stop glaring at this piece of shit man. I didn't trust her being alone with him outside when she walked him out, so I waited outside at the door just fuming as she said goodbye to him. I trust her. Not him. Yes, I should control my rage, but what the duck? Anyways, when we were inside I told her what was said and how I don't really want to see him again. I asked her if she had any feelings for him and she reassured me no. She even threw her phone to me and said I can read their convos if she didn't trust me. I do trust her, though I don't trust him. She was upset with me for making him run off. Anyways, I actually did check her phone to see their convos. I shouldn't have because she got upset with me not trusting her. The convos dating quite far back were all platonic on both ends. Nothing of concern, but this guy clearly cares for her. Anyways, you bet she made me sleep on the couch for actually snooping through her phone. I deserved it. I do trust her. But my mind was clouded by anger that night. I'm not a small guy and neither is he. We are both muscular and a fight wouldn't look good. I kept my calm, but I'm also very protective of her. I was so conflicted. My wife and I are past that now, and we are doing great again. She said she won't ever talk to him again if I don't want it, but she doesn't think that's fair. We both spoke about the night and have moved past it now. But did I overreact? Am I overreacting with this friendship? I don't know what to do. Duck. Too long didn't read a man friend of my wife's came into my house. Told me he loves my wife and threatened me seriously to take care of her or else. I basically went through this exact scenario in my last relationship. The difference is it happened in the beginning of our relationship. Please? Please communicate exactly how you feel. And treat those conversations with care and respect. And please make it clear that you need her to treat it the same. This guy broke a boundary. He disrespected you and your bond with her. I hope she cares about that. Personally, if found out someone I thought was a platonic friend was in love with me, I would tell them, gently, that the friendship had run its course and they need to move on. It's only fair to the other person to give them space to move on, whether they want it or not. Plus, I'd be outright livid if they threatened my husband in that manner. That's just disrespectful of me and my marriage. Third story. I 34 female feel unattractive, and my husband 41 male of 5 years has low libido. I 34 female have been happily married to my husband 41 male for 5 years. We've got 3 kids. Together we've made a family and help each other's dreams come true, both life goals and careers. We lead a generally charmed life. But like all relationships, none is completely perfect. We have different love languages. Words of affirmation mine and acts of service his. For the most part we overcome this by making a bit of extra effort to speak each other's love language. I do some of his chores during the week. He occasionally pays me a compliment maybe 3 times a week. However, the trouble started after we'd had our 3rd child. We hadn't had X for 9 months, and when I brought it up, he was shocked. He could hardly believe it had been that long. But when he looked back he could see it was true. We had X once after that conversation. And then nothing again for a few months. About 6 months after our baby was born, I started to feel really down about the way I looked. I hadn't lost all of my pregnancy weight, about 1 kilogram over, but still totally within the normal BMI range. I felt fat and flabby and saggy. I tried to mask over this insecurity by just ignoring it for a while, as I am generally bubbly and confident. But the lack of X made me seriously doubt whether my husband was even still into me. Google didn't help. All I could find were either stories of men who wanted more X than their wife, I wish. Or people telling women their husband wasn't into them anymore. All of this is complicated by the fact that I can't be the one to initiate X, as this can turn him off. And I also didn't want to pressure him into X, so I just for the most part tried to make myself as attractive as possible, and then wait for him to notice. It all came to a head one night when I burst into tears and confessed all my struggles to him. He was very sympathetic and also worried because of course he wants me to be happy. He explained that he just has low libido. Nothing to do with me. And that as far as he's concerned he'd happily never have X again in his life. Not that he didn't enjoy it or anything, but he could live without X no problem. He realized as a result of this conversation that I didn't feel the same way, and he'd make an effort to initiate X more often. Since then things have improved a lot. We have X 1-2 times a month now. And we both enjoy it tremendously. But I still feel like I want more X. And I still feel unattractive. Past partners couldn't get enough of me. They were always telling me how SXY I was. Kissed me every day. Looked at me like they wanted me. etc. I have always been treated like a X goddess. He rarely even looks at me. I am only 34 minus. I feel too young to be shelved like this. Frankly, I don't know if I'll ever want to be shelved, but definitely not in my 30s. I am frustrated that I can't talk myself out of feeling this way no matter how much I try. I am happily married. I am off the market. I shouldn't care whether or not I am attractive. It should be enough to know that my husband finds me attractive even though he never says so and only has X 1-2 times a month. This should be enough, and it's already 10x more than before. But I can't stop my feelings. I miss X. I hate what I see in the mirror almost every day, and I never used to be like that. I want to feel like a goddess again. Any advice? Any way to make myself feel better without asking my husband to change? Too long didn't read. We have X 1-2 times a month. Husband rarely gives me compliments. I feel unattractive. I want to feel like a goddess. Advice please. Update. Wow. I am so glad Reddit exists. Thank you so much for all your thoughts and suggestions. My husband and I had a good conversation about everything, and we'll be taking the following steps. Start sleeping in the same bed again. I didn't mention it in the original post, but we've been bed sharing with kids in separate beds, and clearly the time has come to evict the kids from our bedroom. He is going to see the doctor to exclude any possible physiological reasons. For example, low libido can be a symptom of heart disease, and he's at an increased risk of that. Wouldn't hurt to test his testosterone levels either. We're going to hit the gym together, he'll go swimming. And I'll lift weights. If doing those 3 things is still not enough, we will go to therapy. Either as a couple or me on my own. Or both. Depending on how things pan out. Thanks again. Update. Well, I feel like a goddess again. Everyone. D. What happened? I decided to go to individual therapy. And focus on myself. Work on myself. My physical self-image was a symptom of a larger problem. Troubles at work. Troubles at home. A storm inside. During counseling, I opened the door to a cellar where I had been keeping my true self locked in the dark, ashamed of her. I was bullied as a kid. And I had no idea I had accumulated so much self-loathing since then. Releasing that was amazing and so freeing. And so, by the time I said goodbye to my counselor, I was stronger and more self-assured. I realized I had been sacrificing so much of myself for the sake of others, especially the important men in my life: my husband, my boss, my father, my manager, etc. I was constantly seeking approval, trying to please them. My relationships had gotten completely out of balance. Things started to get complicated. I developed a crush on a colleague. And because I am Demi's Zool, my attraction to my husband started to diminish. The more time passed, the more I felt like I just didn't care anymore what he thought of me. At a low point, I said to my husband, you always keep your thoughts to yourself. I used to find it mysterious and interesting, like a puzzle I could unwrap. But now I realize that there's actually no mystery to unravel. There's just nothing. And the silence is boring. It was hurtful and unkind. I am not proud of it. Something changed after that. Both for him and for me. Over the course of the next few months, I gave less. And I took more. I went to conferences. I left the kids with my husband. I took time off work. I stopped making up for the mistakes of my superiors at work and let them deal with the consequences of their actions. I felt like I was coming home to my true self, my no-nonsense kick-ass self. One night my husband and I were watching Alien. And he confessed that ever since he'd seen the original as a boy, he'd really liked Ripley. She was the kind of woman he had wanted to marry. And so he married me. You should have seen my face. The tears wouldn't stop. I felt like he had finally told me what I needed to hear the most. I got rid of my attraction to my colleague. It's actually not that hard as a Demi. I just focused on everything I didn't like about them. And within a week or two the crush was totally gone. I find them a total turn off now. Do you remember I mentioned I wasn't able to initiate X? That's because it was a huge turn off for my husband. One evening we discussed why. And you know what? He felt too much pressure if I initiated. Because he thought he'd have to perform. Once he realized that he can safely turn me down if he's not in the mood, and also that it's okay for us to kiss and cuddle without it leading to something more, he's been okay with me initiating. You'd think he wouldn't get to age 40 without having figured that out. But hey, I guess people never cease to throw surprises. Haha. Our ex-life improved a lot. I no longer needed his praise to soothe my self-loathing. So I was less needy about it. He initiated a bit more often. But more importantly, with greater enthusiasm and quality. He chooses what I wear sometimes, and I feel so beautiful when he looks at me like I am the only being that matters. And he compliments me. We even got into a bit of light DS, which has spiced things up a lot. Even though I had fallen out of love with him for a while, I have fallen back in love with my husband stronger and harder than ever before. I couldn't be happier. I love myself. And I love him so much. He's just the best partner I could ever wish for. 3. Thank you Reddit for helping me through one of the hardest lows in my life. And thank you especially Jimmy Jordan Separati for your advice and encouragement. Too long didn't read, I felt unattractive, and my husband didn't want X. I went to a counselor. I stopped self-loathing. Husband and I fell back in love again, have great X. Update. Oh my god, thank you for all the comments and awards. I have no words. I thought maybe 5 people would care about the update. Not this amazing amount of encouragement. Thank you so much. So glad to have been on this journey with you. 3. It's probably an unpopular opinion. So I am ready for the backlash. But here goes. I understand wanting to work on yourself, and I am glad you resolved your issues and found positivity and love in your life. But it just seemed that in that journey you treated your husband and your colleague very unkindly, which could have been avoided. And even that is fine, as everyone makes choices that hurt others. But what I find worrying is your lack of remorse. It would have made sense if these issues were caused by them. But like you said, it was your own personal perspective of yourself. I just find this worrying. And someone should notice this. Anyway, I am glad you're happy now and hope everyone else in your life is too. This is the best post I have ever read on here. You changed your thoughts about yourself, which is the secret to life in my opinion. Congrats and thank you for this empowering and amazing story. Hit like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing to our channel.